Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, here for a brief introduction before today's wonderful episode. Guys, you know the deal. 31 days, 31 pods. But we got to plug some stuff, man. That's the way this game goes. First off, if you love what we're doing here, if you love the October Mega Marathon, that warms our hearts. It would be great if you're able to go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod and help support the show, right? Not only are you helping us grow the show, make the show better, get it up and running stronger than ever, but also we do a lot of work over there to make sure that it's an awesome deal for you too. So you have a huge Patreon exclusive library of episodes. If you want even more episodes, right? If 31's not enough, go get you some more. We got them. We have feature-length commentaries. You can pick a double feature. We have a Tales from the Crypt miniseries. We have all kinds of fun stuff over there. We're building a really fun, awesome community over there that we would love for you guys to be a part of if you're able and willing. So again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The YouTube you can subscribe to is Film Alchemist. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Another thing you guys can do, man, we're on all the socials, right? Do all the social stuff. Make sure you share and re-X all of our shit, whatever the phrases are now. You can also make sure you leave 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you find podcasts. That's a great way to help the show. Help us crush the algorithm, right? And become the biggest behemoth of a pod that the world has ever known. That would be cool. We'd settle for just bigger. That'd be great. Another thing you can do, guys, if you're listening to this, you love movies, you probably love horror movies. You have friends that do the same. Send them a message, send them an episode, right? However you communicate with your friends. Let them know that we're here and what we're doing, and we'll grow this thing one awesome friend at a time. That's the goal for the next year, man. A real hard grassroots push to take over the podcasting world. Speaking of taking over the world, No One Will Save You. A movie that really hit the fucking internet and immediately became kind of breaking the internet, right? Very divisive from one page of the script to people's really strong reactions for and against the movie No One Will Save You. Really fucking fun when movies come out and it elicit a really strong reaction. So many movies we have today, they just kind of come out, they hit streaming, they disappear, gone. It's really nice when a movie, at least even if it's not always the most constructive or fair, at least makes us stop and have conversations. Spoiler alert, I thought this movie kicked all the asses. And what also kicked all the asses was having our returning friend, Gory Cory. We got to talk to Gory Cory last year. Love the conversation with Gory Cory. Was so ecstatic when they decided that they would come back and join the pod. Now, Cory does a lot of work, right? So they have some writing on Fangoria, right? They work at Fangoria. Co-host of the Scream Teens pod. This was the really fun one. Last year when we talked to Gory, right? They're in college, working film student, right? Like working their way through college. It's kind of journey that a lot of us have been on years ago. Talked about in our House of the Devil episode, the idea of when they got to make a movie, this and that. This year they got to direct a segment in a movie, man. How fucking cool is that? That meant the world to me. That warmed my heart. So make sure you look down in the show notes. Make sure you follow Gory Cory and their work wherever you can. You're going to want to keep track of her or them. They have wonderful future ahead of themselves, right? Wonderful to see our friends doing great. Wonderful that they were kind enough to come back. I appreciate that very much. Wonderful conversation. Wish them all the best. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and help us with the October Mega Marathon. Picked a great movie as always. All of the love for the movie, all of the love for Gory Cory. Follow below. And remember, keep following us because when the movie comes out, we'll all go. We'll all be there and support it however we can. So without any further ado, No One Will Save You with Gory Cory. All right, welcome back to the pod, everyone. Our returning friend, Gory Cory. Welcome back to the show. If you would be so kind, could you introduce yourself, tell the people where to find all your stuff, and introduce the movie that you have picked for this year's October Mega Marathon?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm Gory Cory. I run a blog, gorycory.com. You can find me on Instagram at underscore Gory Cory underscore and on Twitter at Gory Cory Horror. That's Gory Cory with no E's. No E's.
We don't need the ease.
And I have an upcoming film called Welcome Week, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be
That's
posting
right.
about it on all of my socials. And the movie I picked is called No One Will Save You by Brian Duffield.
Yeah, just lighting the internet ablaze. I have to say, for those of you who remember Gory Cory from last year, this is super cool because last year we talked young film school. You're like, someday making movies, this and that, the goal. Now you have a movie coming out. How cool is that?
It's crazy.
I
I'm
know.
really excited. I got really lucky and I was able to make a movie with like a lot of really good friends and it was awesome.
Incredible. So proud of you.
Thank you.
But yeah, that is really cool. The time travel. See, I'm a dad now, so like I get this effect all the time of watching young
I'm
people do
sure.
stuff while I just sit and rot. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you just started a production
Proud of you.
company.
That's
You're
right.
doing the same
You
thing.
know what I did? I found really hardworking, successful friends, and I fucking attached myself to them
That's the
and
way to do
ride
it.
them like
Yeah.
war ponies. No, I'm just kidding. But no one will save you. So this movie, new, dropped on Hulu streaming.
Yeah.
To say that this has set the internet ablaze would be an understatement, right? Even a page of the screenplay, that's how you know it's a divisive movie. When people want to actually talk about the craft of screenwriting, this movie has just set the internet ablaze. So what was kind of your initial reaction to this movie? Why pick this movie?
Well, I first started seeing I saw so many comments on it before it was even coming out, so many tweets about it, especially from Scott Wampler. And it just made me really curious.
Mm.
And watching it, like, I don't know, it was crazy. I thought it was such a beautiful way of telling a story and I don't know, it was just genius in my opinion, personally. I really liked it, but I could see why so many people didn't. And like one of the things I'm in film school right now, and one of the things you talk about all the time is how do you tell a story without saying any words, like without dialogue. And this does it so perfectly. And it's one of the only movies that I've seen in a long time that's like genuinely scared me, like
Yeah.
to my core. And it's PG-13. So I
Yeah.
was very impressed by that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think it's funny because this is the ultimate. It's like a film student thing, right? You always have that screenwriting professor that never really wrote a screenplay, but they have the book.
Literally.
And they're like, the number
They have
one rule
saved the
that I
cat.
keep reading is show me, don't tell me. And they love to say
Literally.
that. And I was like,
Literally.
this is catnip for that professor.
Exactly.
Uh,
I know. As I was watching it, I was like, "This is gonna be the next like this. We're all gonna have to watch this movie."
yeah, every intro to film freshman, get ready. This
A
is going
moment
to
of
be on every
silence. Yeah.
syllabi for the rest of time. Uh, but it's I just appreciate. 'Cause I was trying to think. I was like, when's the last time we had a movie that was essentially this still and silent? I mean, this movie's not still. That is the exact wrong word.
Yeah.
But silent for sure. And I was like, I guess maybe The Artist and maybe large
Yeah.
chunks of Hush, right? Like that's it.
Yeah.
Those are kind of about the two I could think of. It is a bold move in today's era, right? Especially releasing a movie on streaming,
I
where
was so mad they released this on streaming.
it
Oh,
does feel like a theater that or like a movie primed for a theater
yeah.
experience. I'm a big let people have movies however they want kind of person.
True, true.
But with a movie like this, right? There is no argument that when we watch movies at home on our couch, the allure, right? We turn into little golems with our phone. It's just
Yeah.
impossible that something's not going to invade your experience, right?
Mhm.
And especially a movie this silent, it's a big gamble
Yeah.
that your movie will keep people's attention enough that because this one you can't like watch it out of the corner of your eye while you're on your phone.
No.
It's a movie you cannot
Because
do
you
that
can't
to.
hear
So
it.
it
Yeah.
feels primed for the theatrical experience, sadly.
Yeah. I think I really would have liked to see it in a theater. I was watching it and I had to stop because I had class, but it was so good that was like still watching it on my phone and in class. I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
stop. Um, which very few movies have had that effect on me. Where I've been like, I'm actually not even gonna pay attention in class today. Um, But yeah, I
So many
think
movies did that for me.
real.
And that was back in the day when we had to draw movies and flip them on little pieces of paper, like an old timey sideshow.
Yeah.
No, it's because this. I mean, pretty much once the end of Act One hits, right, where she takes the steeple of the little miniature house,
Hmm.
and the alien kind of telekinesis spins her, and it locks into his head. From that moment on, I was just
I was ready.
fucking
Yeah.
riveted because I
It's
had to pause it because my friend had to go pick up his cat from his mom's house, and he's like, "Wait," he's like, "Where is this? I need a Hulu password. I have to watch." Like we were just like foaming at
yeah.
the mouth.
Yeah,
We could not
literally.
wait to get to the rest of this movie.
It's
And it's really an impressive feat, I think, that the movie pulls off. Because I'd like to hear your opinion. I know one of the things people are kind of mad about online, right, is there is this critique that I didn't find myself per se. Not to lead your answer if you did, but there's a lot of this. There's no story. There's no story. That's a critique I keep
I
reading.
keep
I
hearing that,
thought
and
the amount of narrative they gave us without having to drown us in it was amazing. I didn't find that to be a problem in the film at all. What did you think about the kind of setup to Bryn's world and story, and how that continued to keep you grounded as the alien invasion incurred?
I just didn't really understand. I was sort of like, no story. Like, since when?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the story is very clear. It's like a girl grieving her mother, grieving her best friend.
Mm-hmm.
She's no one left.
Mm-hmm.
And then aliens come in and she has to save herself because no one's going to save her because she literally like made enemies out of everyone in her life,
Mm-hmm.
basically. I was like, that's a very clear story from
Yeah.
beginning to end. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of people have kind of weaponized it's kind of become a joke almost that the A24 model is to take
Hmm.
inner trauma and, personal demons and just make them a monster. I thought what was nice about this one is there's a real kind of like fleshy real world component. I think those
Yeah.
movies get in trouble when at the end of the movie you're sitting there questioning, so is that monster real or is this all in the head? This one's not that at all.
Hmm.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
maybe the very end. We'll get to that. But I think the journey of, because the way I thought about it is like, you don't hear people say that there's no story in Jaws when they're just on the boat and the shark's coming for them. The
Yeah.
story is I've got to survive. Right?
And
That's the
that's a
story.
clear story we see. Like, that's been a story since like for almost any horror film we see. Like even Halloween, where like even if the story is simple, doesn't mean there's no story there. I don't know. I
Yeah,
wonder if
and
that's a
honestly, I
critique.
think more movies get tripped up by trying to so overly
Yeah.
complicate. There is a real beauty in just telling a simple, and to your point, this movie has some just dramatically impactful moments.
I mean, there's so much that left me like physically shaking,
Yeah.
like out of fear. And I don't know. I wonder if that's a critique about the lack of dialogue. If people are just so not used to that they think that there needs to be
Yeah.
dialogue in order for there to be a story. Or maybe it's because they were watching it on streaming and they weren't paying super close attention and they didn't get a lot of that exposition of, like the gravestone and like the
Yeah.
friend photos and the police officer's name and stuff. Like that,
Mhm.
those kind of reveals felt so genius to me and like such a I don't know, like it's exactly what they teach in film school for sure, but I thought it was, a great way to sort of utilize that silence.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, right? Because I mean, there's some kind of on the nose metaphor stuff at the start, right? Like her creating her ideal miniature town.
Hmm.
I was like, I get it. But like, I build miniatures too. I think it's just a nice,
Yeah.
peaceful, relaxing hobby. So I was like, hey, man, let's not throw stones from our own little fantasy houses over here. But, it's a nice, like, that's a place she wants to be, right? This version of her
Yeah.
town where she has some control. Her practicing her smiling in the mirror while she's getting out of the shower. Is that a very kind of, first student film motif ever? Like, there's a couple of things that
Yeah.
film students love, and it's that. It's dramatic fantasy suicides. Like, I did one of those, right, where
Oh
we
yeah.
played chess and the loser died. Dripping faucets. Film students love fucking dripping faucets.
So cinematic.
It's just, we all have the same inspirations. We don't have to pretend that we're better than them.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really effective. And honestly, I think that segment where she goes into town, right? And she's just got a mail, and watching her try to like quickly throw the mail in as people are giving her side eye.
Yeah.
Watching her go to her mother's tombstone and trying to hide, you know, so she's grieving that, but then also trying to hide as she goes back. I mean, that's a tense kind of real world scary moment,
Yeah.
right? Like, it reminded me of the best moments of like the 70s body snatchers with Donald Sutherland.
Yes.
And I
Totally.
thought that was because it makes her an alien in her own community. And while,
Yeah.
yes, the metaphors aren't hidden, they're also not beating you over the head like a sledgehammer. I
Yeah.
thought it was really
And they don't
artfully
need to
laid
be
out.
hidden,
Yeah.
I think. Like again, like this is very clearly gateway horror. Like it's not
Mhm.
supposed to be, I don't think it needs to be, I don't know. I don't think the metaphors need to be as hidden as people think. And I think,
Right.
I don't know, like it's just
I think American audiences, we lie to ourselves a lot because we
yeah.
hate European movies en masse. We're like, what's that artsy bullshit? But then we're also like, you know
We
what?
want
I kind of knew exactly
it.
what this movie was doing a little too much.
Yeah.
Like, guys, we have to pick a side that we're on. Do we
It's
want
just
all
like
the answers or do we want none of the answers?
yeah, literally. I do think one thing that this movie did that I didn't love, but I thought it was
Mhm.
interesting, was showing the aliens so quickly. I think that's like
Yeah.
obviously that's like number one thing they teach about horror is like don't show your monster, don't show the monster. But I think the aliens were really fascinating. I loved all the different ones, but like the second we saw that alien's face, I was like, okay, now I'm way less scared, you know?
It's very cartoonish,
Yeah.
right? Because the
Which
rest of
is
the
fun
movie's
though.
kind
Like I
it
love that.
it's great, right? That the long, like, Slender Man
Mhm.
fingers. That if I had an issue with the movie, right? I think there's kind of two issues with the movie that kept it from me from being, because the ride of the movie, I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know that I've seen a horror movie this year that had a better ride,
Yeah,
right? Like, I
totally.
loved Cabin at the Woods with Dave Bautista, and then
Mhm.
you're like, it just crashes so horrifically in the last
Yeah.
scene that you're like, ooh, don't like
Okay.
that, right?
Yeah.
And this one had such a brilliant ride. I think the aliens, I love the kind of laying out of what they are. I
Yeah.
think you do see a lot of this kind of, like, the moment when the big one gets caught in the car and she
Yeah.
blows the car up and then it's just kind of like, meh.
Mhm.
It looks underwhelming at times. The other thing is, I have no fucking idea what the aliens' game plan is or what they're doing. Because I was
I
like,
think
is this
neither
an
does she though.
invasion?
Like,
Is this curiosity? Because this is the thing, when they
yeah.
catch her, the infamous page that burned the internet ablaze, right? She can't move, as they, like, then bold certain things. When she's glued to the ceiling in red, you're like, why didn't you do that before you let her murder 3 or 4 of
Yeah.
your alien brethren? Right? So I don't understand what the aliens' like final game plan is per se. That's something we can kind of address again at the end. But I was
I
like, those critiques to me were not even the stuff I was reading online. Like, to me, that's a pretty small, because you could say that about Signs too. One of the
yeah.
movies I would argue is one of the other best alien invasion movies
Mhm.
ever. Like, what's their fucking plan?
I
Right?
mean, this
Like,
one
why are
felt
they in this
very
guy's house? Why aren't they blowing him up from space?
this one
Independence Day style.
yeah, literally. This one at first I sort of was like, okay, it's an alien invasion. We don't know why. And then it became pretty clear that it was going to be a body snatcher invasion. They were trying to take over the world.
Yes. I
But
thought those scenes were awesome.
oh my
That
God, that was
the bus
so
really got me.
that was crazy. Well, because that was when she was like one of the only times a character has made a smart decision, right? And actually
Mhm.
left their
Yeah,
house when
she's like,
something
I'm
went
getting my
wrong.
Unabomber outfit on and I'm getting the fuck
I
out of
know.
here.
I was like, thankfully, someone
Yeah.
finally knows what they're doing. No. And I thought that was also a brilliant tool because again, like she really is alienated for sure. But yeah, those body snatcher like worm things, those are crazy.
Mhm.
So nasty.
So
And
gross.
but I didn't understand, I also didn't understand like that first night when she kills the alien and then she's just sitting there like
Mhm.
and the bug like crawled out of its mouth or whatever.
Mhm.
I didn't understand why it didn't try to come and get her,
I think
while
there's an
she
element of when it knows that she can attack and fight back.
Mm, that's
That
true.
it's not this powerful. It's not, because we see in Aliens, right, that the face huggers
Yeah,
are pretty effective predators on their own. I think these little kind of
they need the
pinaptic things,
safety.
whatever the hell they
Yeah.
are, yeah, they're not as powerful. And then eventually they can kind of grow and become other versions. So I think their attack protocols are a little different.
Hmm.
But I like that scene in general, man. When he whips her around and gets stuck in the head, and then she's just sitting there
Oh,
looking at an alien.
it's
I was like,
so
this
good.
moment is so fucking good, and I'm so
Yeah.
ready for this movie. The neighbors all in unison, like, look from the sky and roll their heads over to look at
Yes.
her as the clouds are rolling in, and she's like, I got a Home Alone my house. I was like, this is exactly the movie I did not know
Yes.
I needed.
Yeah, totally.
There's a part of me that wish it had kept on that path a little more.
I agree.
But I think one of the incredible things, I mean, I do think it's something a lot of us screenwriters do. We lean on dialogue way too heavily.
Hmm.
And this one to just, like, I was even just sitting there, I was like, is this like a 45-page script? Like, just ripping all the
Yeah.
guts out of that. It's incredible how engaging it remains throughout.
Oh, it's crazy. Um, yeah, I remember like the first 15 minutes, I was like, she hasn't said a single word yet. Is that what this
Yeah,
is gonna
you're
do?
like checking the sound bar. You're like, what is going
Yeah,
on?
literally, literally. But yeah, this really did like as I was watching this, I was like, why hasn't this been made sooner? Like it felt so like such a perfect,
All of us
exactly
that
what
are
I
chasing
wanted.
that indie whore
Yeah,
dream. This seems
literally.
exactly like what we've been looking for.
I was like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, granted, they have some production stuff that is higher
yeah,
level, but you're like, just the idea of something so compelling and so quiet, so
yeah.
simplistic. I mean, you take the aliens out, this is a pretty simplistic. It almost reminded me of, I think Sam Raimi's The Craft, or not The
Oh,
Craft, The Gift,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Where Kate Blanchett, I think, is like, she's a psychic, and people just come to her like, hey, can you help me film crimes? And everyone else is like, she's evil. And it's like, I'm not really a part of anything in this town. I don't know why I'm doing
Yeah.
it. And that's kind of the vibe. And again, I think the other thing that a lot of us are lacking is someone who can deliver such a just unbelievable, like, atomic level performance as Caitlin
Yeah.
Dever.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, this one, I know there's no world where this gets nominated for an Oscar, but
But
this
it,
is the kind of
yeah.
movie you should have work for like the next 10. You should be book solid for 10 years off a performance
I
like
mean,
this.
she she did everything she could. Like rent was due. Like she I just want to know, like, I bet you she opened up that script, saw that there was one line, and she was like, I know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm doing with
She
this.
saw the first cut of this and she told her roommate, go ahead and move out. Like, it's time. No longer am I subleasing.
She was like, I'm firing my agent. Get me CA on the
Yeah.
phone. Like
Exactly. I mean, it is incredible. And we
she
throw this phrase around a lot, right? Breakout performances and that. She's the whole fucking movie.
yeah.
She's the whole
It
movie.
wouldn't work at all without her. It
And I
wouldn't
would
work at
argue
all.
the aliens actually oftentimes kind of detract as much as they help.
Yeah,
So it
I
really is
agree.
on her. It's not like she's getting bailed out by this unbelievable creature we can't wait to see again.
Hmm.
She's the whole fucking show.
Yeah.
Every single scene is just on the back of what she's bringing. It really is one of the most remarkable. It kind of reminded me the first time I saw Mia Goth in like X and Pearl,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, she's like gonna be one of those next people. Like she's taking the step, and we had seen her before, but you just saw like this other thing,
She's
right?
never like even in Booksmart, she was incredible in Booksmart, but like I don't think she's ever really because I've been a fan since Last Man Standing. I've
Yeah.
been watching her since I was a kid. Um, I just feel like she's never really gotten that chance to really carry a film like this on her own. And I mean, every ounce of story is explained through her facial expressions,
Mhm.
besides that one line we have at the end, really. So it's like,
Yeah.
if she couldn't, like, she's the entire story. She's the
Oh,
whole movie.
the terror of facing that as an actor that young and just exceeding what
Oh
would
my
be
God.
expected of you. I thought that was like the real takeaway of the movie.
That's like they
Um,
should also teach this in acting school.
oh
Like,
my God, no shit, right? That's one of those moments as an actor, because I used to act a little bit poorly, obviously, based on where I am in my life. But it's one of those you so have to trust the director too to put you in
oh
the
my
right
God.
moments so that you can sell what you're doing. And
Yeah.
the blend that these two found, that's why I'm just baffled by the backlash to the movie. I think it's one of
Well,
those, I think you're a little meaner to movies that you love because you see how much more
yeah.
they could achieve, right? When I
Well, I think
watch,
they're also meaner to horror. They're meaner
Everyone's
to horse
really fucking
brothers.
mean to horse.
Yeah.
That's also true. But like, I'm trying to think of a great example, right? Like a movie like Sharkula.
Yeah.
It's hard to really be hypercritical because you're like, what's the highest ceiling of Sharkula, right?
Okay, well,
Like,
what are you trying to say about Sharkula right now?
first
Because
off, I own it on
cinema.
DVD. No, I'm just kidding. I am single-handedly keeping the evil shark genre alive.
No, that's me.
Okay, we're together. We are
Yeah.
saving. We're saving the sharks. Like her ghost mom and best friend, we've come back to save the shark genre. But it's just, it is what it is. There's not a lot of expectation that's unmet.
Mhm.
And I think in this one, I think even people who are hating on this movie, because I was telling you, it's funny on my letterbox, it's like 5 stars or 1 star.
Yeah.
And there's almost no one in the middle. And it's the 1 star, it's just, I don't understand the backlash. I think at some level, those people would have to at least admit they felt the rush. They see
Yeah.
the craft. Right? And you're like, if you see that stuff, it's not a 1. It's
Yeah,
not
like,
a 1.
if anything, like you can at least appreciate just the filmmaking of
Yes.
it is so, and the acting, like the production is so good.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah,
even if
on
you
every
hate the
level.
story, you can recognize that's at least 5 stars right there out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's hard, right? Because I get... I personally kind of love the her and Maude story, right? That's another thing that people are kind of
Yeah.
upset about. I think people wanted exact answers as to why her mom's not around,
Mhm.
what happened to Maude earlier, but I think it's really rewarding when they pay it off at the end.
I think that was sort of the whole point, right? Like when I saw that, I
Exactly.
was like, yeah, that's exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, and I never felt like I wasn't watching the movie, and the question becomes, right, is not telling us more shackling the momentum of the film.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know where you would find that moment in the film where, because like the scene, right, when she sees the flipped over mail truck, she's had this horrifying night in her own home. No electric, she's riding a bike. She's like, against all of the fear and trepidation I have, is someone who's done something horrific, right? That's all we know at the time. Actually, we don't even know that. We just know that she's
Yeah.
ostracized and she misses her friend and mom. I have to go to the police and let them know what's happening. The weight of that moment, right? Does it ruin that moment in any way, shape, or form that we don't know why that mom spits on her? No. We saw her dodge her once and we see them face to face.
it's better that we don't know that too. Because
I
if
think so too.
if we had started out the movie knowing what she did to Maude, we wouldn't have felt for her the same way. And I don't think I would have been able to see
yeah.
myself in her. And not knowing that until the end, I think makes it 100 times better because revealing that too early, it's like, okay, well then why did I watch this whole thing?
Yeah, there is an interesting moment that I think some viewers will struggle with, right? Is at the end when you find out what she did, there's going to be a big portion of the audience that can no longer like care if she makes it or not by the end.
Yeah.
There are people that will judge. I mean, I think you can say she's a revved up young person and she makes a horrific mistake, right? Some
Yeah.
people would say that's just murder. She just murdered someone. It's hard to get into the head of that girl and say, yeah, I think she intentionally meant to kill her friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like me and my friends when we were little, right? We would just go outside. Our parents just made us stay out till the sun came down. And we would just go in fields and we would just play throw rocks at each other. Right? And then you'd get hit with one and be like, that's too big, little one. Right? But like eventually
Yeah.
you'd get hit 5 times and you'd pick up a
No,
bigger one to
yeah.
get revenge. That could have been any of us. So, but there is a portion of the audience, we're kind of a very punitive people, right? That we would not forgive enough to care about her journey.
Yeah.
And she looks very young and innocent. That I think to your point, that's an important part of the ride.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Is that we want to protect her from that mom who's spitting on her.
yeah.
And if you
Meanwhile, if you
overly
had
explain
known, you
it,
wouldn't
then maybe
have-
you want to spit on her too.
Yeah. And then like the whole time, if we had known what she'd done and why the town hated her, I don't think it would have been as scary because we wouldn't have felt bad for her. That the town, of course, they hate her. She's a murderer. And I think also, like, towards the end, then you really get to see, okay, I see how she's fought so hard against these aliens because, like, clearly she's a fighter. Like, clearly.
Yeah. And
Clearly
how
she's
her
got
own
some
neighbors
violence
have
in her.
become like avatars for these aliens. Like she's been
Yeah.
living this for a long time.
Yeah. literally. So one thing that bothered me because it just sort of like came up and then like I didn't really maybe I missed it. It like just didn't come up again was like, did the aliens make a copy of her? And then or like what was going on there? That's what I'd like to
Yes.
talk about.
So that was a bizarre moment, because that's that amazing scene when he like
It's
flicks her like
incredible.
Doctor Strange and busts her through the
Yeah.
wall, which I thought was fucking hilarious. I was dying laughing. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to laugh here, but it was just such a shockingly
Yeah.
violent moment in the middle of this, because he's like in the room where she's hung up all the like Dear Maude
Yeah.
letters, and I was
Oh
like, oh,
God.
this is pretty cool. And then he flicks, and she's like, ah! And I couldn't help it. I just was laughing my
Yeah.
ass off. And then she goes in the room, and the red light catches her, and it's kind of sending her up and down. And he's in her face. The thing goes in, right? So she is walking through these kind of memory holes, right? This is where
Mhm.
we start to see all this shit that's kind of gone on.
Yeah.
Or no, that's not right. That's the part where she
No,
sees Maude blurry for a second in that awesome scene where she reaches in her own mouth and rips it out, right?
that was crazy.
So
That
cool.
changed my life, that scene. Because body snatchers like have been my biggest fear since I was like a kid, and
Oh,
seeing her
man.
do that was so empowering.
It's something as you get older, you're like, I'd rather face every horror movie monster than look at the people in my life and say, this is what's happening. And they look at me like I'm a fucking insane
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Like that becomes, I think, the scariest shit ever when you kind of get older and older. It's just people not sharing reality with you,
Well,
and
and
how
it's scarier that
terrifying
it
that
could
must
happen
be.
to you.
It could happen
Like,
to all of us.
yeah.
It could happen to all of us, right? Like I was just my friend is just telling me a story. This guy, like an Australian YouTuber or whatever the fuck now, TikTok, whatever. He ate a slug as a bet, and it had a brain eating parasite in it. So he's slowly been losing himself as this brain eating parasite is destroying
Oh my
his
God.
brain. And I was like, it can happen that fucking fast. You could fall and hit your head on
No,
something.
that's there's a
Who
bunch
knows?
of brain-eating parasites in like on the East Coast right now in a lot of our water. Not like drinking
Oh
water,
man.
but like swimming water. And I just
Earth
saw
feels like it's coming for us in a big way the past
No, I
couple of
know. I
years.
know. I just saw a kid who was like dead in like 3 days from it. It was so
Yeah.
scary.
Oh man. It's
Yeah, that's the worst
it can
ever.
happen
Like,
so fast, and it's so scary to just, especially we talk a lot now about like, personhood and your own body and this and that. Just imagining it's like I'm not a part of reality anymore. I'm the only sane one that knows the truth. So either it's me or them, and you never fully know.
yeah.
Right? That's fucking terrifying. But yeah, when she pulls that thing out, and this is another thing I love in this movie. I love how the aliens use different color lights for things and different sounds that go
Yeah.
with it. So good. But they hit that pineapple with a yellow light that then makes it grow and expand, and then the tentacles kind of look like it's going in her mouth, but it's not her.
Yeah.
And then she gets stabbed, and then she slices its throat with a box cutter and holds herself. So I think the pineapple things can also become a copy of you if you expel them from your body. Like it's got her DNA
I
now.
just figured like we would have seen more of that or like
It
something around
think you
like I was
feel like
just
that
like
would matter.
I was like,
Because
that
also
feels
it's
like a
like these
big
aliens are
piece to
not good at
drop.
their job. These aliens are just
Oh
base
yeah.
level. I was like, why would you let her out before the job is done? How can she just pull that thing out? Doesn't it have like hooks or tendrils?
That was so real though, because I was like, think about if we were doing that to another planet, like we would all be really dumb. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we'd be way meaner. It's like
mm,
we're not
yeah.
copying you, we're eradicating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We know
that's
one thing
true.
as human beings, and that is to fucking destroy. It did feel like the aliens were so bad at their job,
Yeah.
but I can't say
I
that
kind of
because I have no
respected that
idea what
though.
their job is.
That's true.
Because are they taking us over like body snatchers? Are they just watching us?
I don't know.
Um,
They
I don't
seem to
know.
be really interested in her memories and
Yeah,
her photos,
yeah.
right? I think I'm
They're
remembering that
really
right.
into, because there's that great scene when because right after that she gets caught and brought up into the ship,
Mhm.
and they do like all three of them touch her head at once.
Yeah.
And there's almost this thing where the aliens, because they don't attack her really aggressively often, right? There are
Yeah.
some of them that are more in attack mode, but a lot of them do these shots where they just kind of sit and watch her moving
Mhm.
around. And in that moment, it's kind of the first time that anyone has tried to see what she went through her own
Yeah.
eyes. And I thought that added a level to, maybe to your point, maybe we're just too small minded to know what their goal is. Right? Like clearly they have something they're interested in. And even if we don't know what, I thought that was just I thought that scene was so
It makes you
rewarding.
feel for them a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, maybe they're not fully evil. We just don't know.
Yeah, they just look at us and they're like, well, this planet seems like a fucking mess. How did this all
Literally.
happen? Right? And so imagine you're the one person that the aliens take and they're like, through their own fucked up
They're
head,
like,
I will learn the human
no, never
experience.
mind.
Yeah. And they're like, wow, we got a live one here. She's got a lot of baggage.
I loved at the end how they were like, we're not gonna kill this one. They were like,
It is a thing. I've seen a lot of people online really rallying behind the like, I love the idea that someone else is going to be like, you know what? Your life is kind of pitiful. I'm just
you
going
know
to be
what?
your
This
friend.
does suck.
And
Like,
I was like, I think a lot of us saw that and we're like, that's so nice. Like, I so wish that was an option.
no, so that would be like if you woke up in like a saw trap and then you like explained everything
Yeah.
about your life to John Kramer and he was like, you know what? Never
Yeah.
mind, man.
Jigsaw was like, you've been forsaking life. And it's like, well, dude, here was Monday. And he goes, dear God, I'm just kidding. Here's the key. You don't even
He's
have
like,
to
there's
work for me
actually no
anymore.
way I
Just
could
go.
torture you.
You know what? I'm just going to let cancer take me. This is too sad. I'm no longer a jigsaw killer. You're like, I
Literally.
choked Jigsaw to death. Um, it is because there's that moment where we get the moment in Red where, and it's so good, right? She's kind of playing with her mom. She runs outside. The cop dad is crying on his knees. She runs in the wood, and her friend pushes her down, and you see the rock. She's reaching for the rock as if she can change time. Bam. And just freezes in that moment. We just freeze, and we sit there and watch with her watching this one moment that, I mean, we all have moments like that. Hopefully not to
Yeah.
this extent. You're like, if I could fucking change
Mhm.
that one thing, how would it all work? And I thought the movie really pressed that in an emotionally satisfying way
Yeah.
without being cruel, without being reductive. I felt, I guess that's just, I just felt en masse
No, for
in that
real.
moment.
Yeah. No, I think that the way that this movie is able to elicit emotion too is like really incredible. I feel like again, all of it is like Caitlin Dever just deserves so much
Mm.
praise, but it's really that scene was so heartbreaking to watch because the whole time you're like, what did she do?
Mm-hmm.
And once you finally figure it out, it's like, especially like that guilt, thinking about her living with that guilt alone for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so sad. It's so scary.
Yeah, because I was getting a little nervous that they were gonna do like the Netflix Texas Chainsaw, which we talked about earlier this month as part of the
Mhm.
marathon, where it's just like school shooter, right? It was gonna be something like
Yeah.
so fucking wild.
Something where you're like, I can't feel bad for you.
Yeah, you're like
Like,
this is not
yeah.
what we're. But it was a pretty related. I mean, we've all been in lost our emotion and hit or pushed another kid or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And it's you do start thinking about how young she was, right? That tombstone. Her best friend died when she
No,
was
she
12,
clearly
which meant
wasn't
she
trying
was
to do that on
probably 12
purpose.
too,
Yeah.
right? Like imagine any 12-year-old you've ever met and saying, I'm going to keep everything you do this year is going to be something I hold you to for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself as a 12-year-old and how fucking terrifying a proposition that would be. And I thought I would love to hear what you were thinking as you were watching when she writes her first Dear Maude letter. And there's a moment where we're after the crime. As an audience, we've had to accept what she did.
Yeah.
And we're watching her watch herself after that moment. The light changes from red to blue. And she kind of reaches for herself as she's writing that first letter. What did you make of this? What were you experiencing as this scene was happening?
Oh, it was so sad. I mean, I personally felt like it really was clear that she didn't do it on purpose. You know, that
Yeah,
she was sort of just
absolutely.
caught up in the heat of the moment, whatever, whatever. And that she has to like not only does she have to live with that guilt, but she lost like her best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she did it, I'm sure it's very, it takes a huge toll on someone so young, especially.
Yeah.
So I sort of assumed it was probably something she learned in like some kind of therapy or something where they were like, just write her a letter, It was
Yeah.
so sad.
Because it felt sad. It didn't feel like she was still doing any work to get
No.
through it. Like that ship had sailed and she's just going
Yeah.
to kind of hope it blows over. in a sad way. And there is this thing that when the movie ends and you know take a walk afterward to think about. This is another great thing that would have been perfect for the theater.
Yeah.
I love movies like this, and then you tell your friends like we're going to get a beer and we're going to hash it all out right now while it's open and we have no idea what we all have solidified and think.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it. Because there is this moment where you start imagining what her life has been like.
I know.
Because
Well,
I don't know how old she's supposed to be in this movie. I'm guessing young. So within 10 years, I think she said at the start, it's been 10 years since it happened. So
yeah.
like 22. And think about
And
like
her,
what was school like? Did she get to go to school? Did she go
I know.
to prison? Did she lose her mom while she was away? I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much extra that kind of is working there, but you don't have to stop the whole fucking movie to
You don't have to know it
deal with it.
either. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this thing of watching her reach across the table and put her hand on her younger self. It's kind of this just brilliant visualization
Yeah.
of how very seldomly we see ourselves as people that are worthy of
Forgiveness. Yeah.
or a second chance. I mean, I don't know about you. I know this is true for me. My wife always, because my wife's like a super well-adjusted, happy person. And she's just like, I don't know how you can tolerate being so cruel to yourself all the time.
It's
And I was
hard.
like, I think you're the weird one, first off, not me. I think most people are like me, where
Yeah.
we're so fucking horrible to ourselves at all
It's
times.
really hard to be nice to yourself and to give
Yeah.
yourself grace.
Yeah.
So, but I
That's a
think that
great
was like
word
one
for
of
it.
the
Just to show grace to yourself for
yeah.
being a person,
Yeah.
right? It's
But that's like a
mm,
big thing you learn in therapy is like you just have to sometimes look at yourself as a human being. Like,
yeah. Well, it's like imagine the stuff that you've done, and then like if that was your wife or your brother or your mom,
yeah.
like would you say the shit to them you say about yourself in your own head? Or would you be like, that's a perfectly logical thing? Oh no, you slipped on your diet and ate 3 pieces of just kidding, 3 whole large pizzas. Right?
Yeah.
Like, would you really be that mean to them? Or would you just be
No,
like, hey, they're having
yeah.
fun on Saturday? But when it's
Yeah, but
you, and so I thought
Mhm.
that moment, and I think that's the great takeaway is you can say
Yeah.
plot wise, maybe this movie's missing here and there. I think that the emotional journey, and I think that moment to me, and I would imagine a lot of audience, just seeing someone forgive themselves of something that is a much more horrific thing. It kind of was cathartic
It
and
puts things in
emotional to me
perspective.
because you're like, well, then I can definitely fucking
Yeah.
be nicer to myself. I thought that, and even when after that they send her back to the ground, and she's not falling, she's in a controlled weight environment. She's
Yeah.
reaching back up because she's almost saying to the aliens, like, I want to be in a place where I can help my old self or forgive my
Yeah.
last self or tell myself, hey man, start that process 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I just think this movie is so emotionally well penned.
Yeah. And I think that's
Hmm.
also such an important thing like for the film to tell us. And I think it's something we're seeing a lot more like healing, especially like generational trauma, but healing like any kind of traumas within yourself and actually just like taking the time to really think about yourself and your experiences. I think that's like a very common trend we're seeing in film, but it's not always done very well. And this, I think, is perfect.
Yeah, I think a lot of time the kind of self-work and mental health card. I mean, even saying it like that, that's kind of my old person vernacular, but when you pull it as a card, where
Yeah.
it's like now you're doing it as a crutch and you're just
Mhm.
kind of doing it for points with an audience or a marketing device,
Yeah.
and you're not doing, because that's something else in therapy is one of the hardest parts about therapy is just ripping that open and being like, now I have to re-deal with all this shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like therapy's not like someone tells you like a fortune cookie and you're like, great, I feel much better.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
exactly.
there's a lot of digging and you got to get really fucking dirty for a long time sometimes. And so I think this movie, it feels so steady all the time.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel cheated. I don't feel condescended to, right? Like they're not trying to do anything for a cheap effect. It's just this really tight, effective story. Because I know a lot of people kind of bitch about the, trauma horror, right? The metaphorical trauma horror. I would show them this one and be like, tell me how this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Tell me how this doesn't work.
Exactly. Well, like I think it's because it's just genuine. Like I think Brian
So
Duffield
genuine.
really knew what he was writing about and knew
Yeah.
what he was doing.
Yeah, and to your point, the scares are still good. The visuals are good. The aliens are
Yeah.
well thought out, even if we don't understand what they're doing. Watching their bodies change, watching the different stuff,
Yeah.
like, it's all very fascinating. We have to talk about it though. The ending is really pissing people off.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know that I can say I don't understand why they're mad.
Yeah, no, I
I
totally
don't know that I
understand.
can say that I like the ending of this movie at all for how much I love the rest of it. I
Yeah.
would love to hear your theory on what is happening and how you feel about it.
I think the whole movie I was just very, very anxious and the whole time I think I tweeted this as I was watching it, but I was like, how is she gonna make it out of this? Like in
It
what world is
feels
she
like a
gonna end
movie
up?
that's driving for a bad cliff, right?
And
I
then just to see her be happy at the end, I was like, you know what? I don't care. Good
don't
for
give a
her.
fuck.
Yeah, good for her.
Okay.
If she's happy, I'm happy. Like,
Yeah.
she's,
You know
that's
what?
really all I felt.
That's why I appreciate you as a soul, because I kind of thought that, like I said, I don't give a fuck if she's dancing with the ghost of her friend and a guy that she's never really met, like a fantasy guy.
Yeah.
And the aliens in the sky, I was like, I was just kind of happy. Like, I was just kind of happy for her. I think what you'd say is happening is that the aliens, I think Brian Duffield might have even said this, so this might not be my own thought. But to me, it just recognized as a moment of you have to let go of that old self. And I think that was her
Yeah.
killing herself too.
And
Is
also
that you
just
have to just
allowing
fucking
herself
let
to
that old
be
self.
happy.
Yeah, right.
She's allowed to be happy.
I think the metaphor clashes with itself a bit, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest, right? The no one will save you metaphor, but then the aliens literally have given you a paradise that you have not earned. Kind of feels like it crashes because, again, it's one of those.
Maybe
Is
she
this?
did earn it though.
I mean, she
Maybe she
did. She
did.
probably earned their respect, right?
Yeah.
She earned their sympathies. She taught them what it was like to be a mixed up bag of flesh that we are. But there is this. Is this a world where they're all body snatched? Because she doesn't seem body snatched. So is she
No, I think
dancing
it's
in the
everyone but
burning wreckage
her.
of our society? Because,
Yeah.
fuck them.
That's
They
what I
weren't nice to
thought.
her.
That's what
That's
I
kind of
thought,
how
but
I saw it.
I was sort of like, you know what? Like that's kind of the best position to be in, I guess, if this is gonna happen to you. You
Yeah.
know? And she wasn't happy when
Yeah.
everyone wasn't body snatched. So, you
It's
know,
weird.
good for her.
I
That's all
don't
I
want to
can
put
say.
too fine a nose on it, but it felt like a lot of the Letterboxd accounts I saw bitching about this ending were pretty fucking in love with the Joker, which kind of has the same ending. So, like, maybe fucking miss me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, not to fucking point out certain people. But I was like, if you really liked one a lot and thought it spoke to you, and then you really hated the other one when they're the exact same,
Yeah.
maybe that's a you problem, man. Maybe that's what this movie's saying is if
Maybe people don't like seeing
everyone
women
treats you
happy.
like you're not a human, maybe who cares when the aliens come? I don't know. Again, I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think it is a strong ending for how great the rest of the movie was.
I don't know what would be though, because I think
That's
it's
exactly
an
right.
ending that's strong enough because it's so disturbing.
Yeah.
But at the
Do you
same time,
want
you're
to
sort
see
of
her
like,
crawl back to her house all bloody and sad and miserable?
well, what's she gonna do? I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's sort of one of those things where, like, okay, but what's gonna happen then? There's gonna be no food
Yeah.
eventually for her. Like, she's gonna starve. Like, so
Oh yeah.
she's not gonna survive without society.
Do we
So,
want to
like,
see her blow up all the aliens that seemingly were like not terrible to her at the end of the movie? Like,
I mean, she's not gonna do that. She's not gonna be able to do
yeah,
that.
I
Like, she can fight, but she's not gonna be able to kill them all.
it's almost just a nice like kind of moment for us to like for us in the movie and the character to just kind of arm in arm
Yeah,
smile at the journey we just did. And I was
literally.
like, I get it. I see it on this like, we need closure. I was like,
That
all right,
was
man.
closure, though. I don't
Yeah.
know. I felt like it was
I
closure.
mean, it was closure for our species. It was closure for her.
Exactly.
And so it's just like, I don't know. I find myself in this weird moment where I fucking loved this movie.
Yeah.
But I fully understand why some people don't. But I also think the loudest criticisms are kind of the dumbest.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I'm in this weird limbo.
Like the
I'm
real
like the
criticisms
mailman
I
who
can
gets
understand.
Sparta kicked into the beam, and I'm half in, half out. And I'm like, why did this happen to me? I was just a really nice mailman. I never hurt anyone except for packages.
Literally. Oh my God.
That's how you know he's the villain of the movie. He
Yeah.
seemed nice, but if you saw someone do that to your packages, unacceptable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of final thoughts as you were experiencing this movie. What were kind of your final takeaways? How would you pitch this to someone who's hearing how wild the reactions are?
I would say honestly just to watch it for Caitlin Dever. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
just watch it for her. And also like it's a movie. It's not real. It's okay if it's okay if the ending isn't what you thought it was going to be. It's not real. It didn't actually happen. It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Like that's when everyone was like, I don't like this ending. I was like, I think it's fun. I think it shakes it up. I think it was unexpected. And it's a movie. So who cares if everybody's dead? It's a movie.
I fucking love that. I'm going to start saying that it's a movie all the time. Because
It's just like it's really not that serious. Like,
it's not hyper realistic.
yeah,
This
it's
is not
supposed
the
to be.
invisible hand theory of cinema. They're letting you know at every turn this is a ride.
Yeah.
And to me, I think what is brilliant about this movie, because the number one sin of movies, I've always said, is if you can tell the people making the movie had no fucking passion for what was happening.
Yeah.
Even if it's really well done, if it's just like a paycheck movie for everyone, and you don't feel any passion, then who fucking cares? That's not this movie. It made me
Absolutely not.
feel a lot.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of mixed emotions. I was very emotionally engaged, which it feels early on like a movie that's going to drop that for
Yeah.
the kind of running faster through the woods stuff.
hmm
And so to me, it kind of just does all the shit I love about movies really well.
Yeah. And it's also like I think it just knows what it is. I
Yeah.
think the film knows exactly what it is and leans into it, and I think that's usually a sign of a good movie, is when it's not trying to be anything else.
Right. Well, I think this is one too. I know everyone's sad it's not in theaters. My silver lining kind of optimism, right, is let's say it went to theaters and it was so divisive people didn't
Yeah.
go. And it
Yeah.
got the Cobweb effect, right? Where Cobweb made no money. That movie, it just gets kind of buried.
Yeah.
Even though it was a really good.
It definitely would too if it had come out
Yeah.
right now.
And I think this is one of those people are going to find it. There's
Yeah.
a low threshold to watching things on streaming if you're reading about it online all day.
Mhm.
I think this is one people will keep coming back to for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that
definitely agree.
emotional journey clicks with you. And there's a chance that Caitlin Dever goes on to be a fucking massive star.
Oh, she will.
I think this is one
She
people
better.
people are going to want to take this right. That's right. You better listen, Hollywood. I know you're back to work, so say But yeah, I think people are going to always want to do this ride. And to me, that's the best you can hope for a movie.
Yeah, and I think like it's one of those movies that's going to be relevant like
Oh,
10,
yeah.
20 years from now. You know, like it's not really
Yeah.
set in its time.
Well, it's kind of a weird, like me and my friend were watching it and we couldn't tell if it was a period piece or not.
It's weird how she
Like-
doesn't use her phone.
It's kind of out of time because I was like, is this because we saw the old, like our grandmas had the rotary phone and we're like, oh, this is the 50s. And I was like, I
Yeah.
think those cars were new. I was like, I think the people mocking her in the background of the cemetery had iPhones.
Yeah.
It's like we couldn't even tell
She's
what
just
time
sort
it
of
was.
set in the past.
Yeah, well, that's what
Yeah.
we're like. There are a lot of kind of like hipster communities that like that kind of throwback stuff. I don't even know if they're called hipsters anymore. Whatever the phrase for that is,
Yeah.
vintage folk. But I was like, it's not bound to a time.
No, I think that's kind of genius though.
This isn't like when I was young and the movie Fear.com came out. You're like, well, this is aging like milk.
Yeah.
This is not great. We're so fucking scared of the internet. I loved it. I loved it. I
Yeah.
thought it was a great ride. I mean, to just turn this movie on in the morning with your coffee, you're still in your jammies or your underwear, and go on this ride. It was one of those moments to me where I was just like, we are so fucking lucky as cinema fans these days. I know there's a lot of talk about what's real cinema and this, and I was like, the fact that I just get that movie
Yeah.
And like I didn't even know it was coming. It just fucking showed up, and I got that movie. I felt very lucky myself.
I just think overall, like, it's just one of those movies you watch and you're like, movies, you're like,
Yeah,
films is an art.
fucking
And like, I don't know. It, it's just there's so much passion put into it and it's such beautiful work that I think even
yeah.
if you don't like the story, you have to appreciate just how much effort went into that film.
Oh, for sure. And I think a lot of us that are cinephiles or pursuing making movies, we're all confronting this new reality in front of us, right? The rise of AI, the
Yeah.
decline of the studio system, and that kind of I'll go out and make my fortune and be famous, whatever. There's so many options now.
Yeah.
The kind of technology's been democratized, so now it's not even just here; it's the whole fucking world. Um, so there's this kind of scary like content versus cinema versus blockbuster versus whatever Marvel. But I think what you see is that it's one of those moments when people are like, "Why do you watch movies so much? Like, you just don't share
Yeah.
movies like we used to, where everyone sees the same shit."
Hmm.
Like a lot of your conversation now is, "Did you see this? Oh, I've never heard of it. What's that on?"
Yeah.
I think when you get this experience, it's a moment to like really re-solidify your soul for the fight ahead.
Definitely.
That's how I felt, at least. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for making the time for us.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for bringing
having
a great
me.
pick again. It was awesome to see you again.
Yeah, it was great to see you
One
too.
more time, can you tell everyone where to find you, your stuff, especially the new movie that you said is hitting festivals, right?
Hopefully. We'll see.
Hopefully. Hopefully. But yeah, let everyone know where to
Um,
find stuff. We'll keep an eye out for the movie. All that good stuff.
yeah. Any announcements will definitely be posted on my Instagram and my Twitter. Instagram is underscore Gory Cory underscore. Twitter is at Gory Cory Horror. And you can also follow my blog, gorycory.com. Any updates will also be posted there as well. Or if you just want to know my thoughts on movies, they're
That's
also
right.
there.
Which people who just heard this episode will for sure want to do. So find Gory Cory online. Just a delight every time we talk. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
making the time. All right, guys, you know the deal. We will be back tomorrow with another episode. 31 days, 31 pods. Because we're insane people. We're fucking insane.
That's crazy.
It's a lot. But see,
Why do you do that to
you're
yourself?
helping carry the load. I brought you into this like Frodo to Samwise. I'm making other people help carry me.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for your time. We'll see you tomorrow.